Kevin O'Connell has just completed his press conference for the Minnesota Vikings. And we didn't learn a whole lot, but at the end of the day, he knocked it out of the ballpark. I mean, this was a very impressive press conference coming from Kevin O'Connell, who is the 10th head coach for the Vikings and first day officially as Vikings head coach. Has spent the entire day with the Vikings organization. He flew in this morning around like 6 a.m. and has been there the entire day working with the team, which I love to see. And I'm so excited for this. If you haven't watched the press conference, you can either just watch this, we'll say what we learned, or else you should watch it because he's a very likable guy. And while I knew he was a great coach, while I knew he was an excellent offensive mind, I didn't know he as good of a speaker as he is. I mean, that man spoke very clearly, and he had a very visioned plan of what he wants for this team, and it was not he knocked it out of the ballpark. So what we learned from this press conference, we didn't learn a whole lot, but we did hear that he's going to be calling the plays for our team, which I mean, we kind of expected that already, that he would be the play caller. He was not the play caller when he was with the Rams. He mentioned how he was kind of a sideline guy, and Sean McVay was the one calling the plays, designing the offense, and the in control of their offense. What he did say that he does want to take over for kind of learn from Sean McVay and be similar to Sean McVay. He called him an offensive mind, and he was coaching with Sean McVay the last 2 years. But most importantly, what he said is that he wants a similar offense to the Rams, which that is the best thing in the world. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. Cooper Kupp was by far the most targeted receiver this last year, had the most receptions, most receiving yards, most receiving touchdowns. He took the triple crown when it comes to wide receivers. Not only that, but not only was he the most targeted receiver this last year, but second most targeted all time. Now he's coming into an organization who has a better receiver than Cooper Kupp. Name Justin Jefferson, who should be getting over 10 targets per game. Justin Jefferson deserves it. He completely deserves to get over 200 targets this next season. He deserves that completely. And I would love to see that come in and us to run a similar offense to the Rams. I hope that is true, and he does do that for our team. Now, he was also asked on running the ball. So obviously, let's not forget, we have Dalvin Cook. So this is a big upgrade from what they had with the Rams. So it's not saying that the Vikings aren't going to run the ball. But what he did say and mentioned here was running is very important. Running the run game is very crucial when it comes to football. However, he kind of mentioned there that he wasn't going to completely run the ball a lot. He did mention that a lot of teams make you run. I believe that's the exact words that he used there. A lot of teams will make you run, meaning he wants to pass, but he's not going to do that against every defense. I mean, rightfully so. That's how you call an offense. You change your offensive scheme depending on the opposing defense that you're going to play that week. So exactly what we wanted to hear with that. Now, he was also asked a question about analytics. Now, this is what they ask everybody in the press conference. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the defensive coordinator. They're asking you about analytics. Analytics completely changed the game of football. Totally different. And if there's one thing we knew from Mike Zimmer, he absolutely hated analytics. And I don't know if there's another head coach who's ever hated analytics as much as Mike Zimmer. He said that he hates it, that he wouldn't, Mike Zimmer mentioned that he wouldn't use analytics ever to make a decision for him. Analytics are very important. Okay, I understand analytics are not the end all be all when it comes to calling an offense. However, it's very important to know your percentages of you getting the first down, of you being able to convert on fourth down, of you getting a touchdown while you're in the red zone and up by 7 points. I don't know, some bunch of analytics like that. Like, it's very important. It has its place. And Kevin O'Connell mentioned here that it has its place. It's important. However, again, it's not the end all be all. You can't make all of your decisions based off of some statistics that leave X, Y, and Z out. I mean, your team's going to be completely different than a different team that analytics play into it. So analytics are important. Again, they're not the end all be all when it comes to making decisions. You got to get risky, especially in 2021. Or 2022 it is now. 2022, yeah, it's 2022 now, so especially in 2022. But still, great job. Another thing we learned, he did mention here that, again, we already know he's coming into this organization. He loves Kirk Cousins. He's coached with Kirk Cousins in the past, and it's looking like the most likely scenario that Kirk Cousins is our quarterback next year. Doesn't mean he's going to be our quarterback, even though they said that. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, because you got to get the right trade. If you get the right trade offer, you will trade away Kirk. And what he did say here was that he does like Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins under his current contract, we are a contending team. We already have the pieces to compete, is what Kevin O'Connell said to. That we already have the pieces to compete, meaning we can win our division with Kirk Cousins. Yes, we can. And I've mentioned this already, so we knew this going into this. We didn't learn a whole lot, but what we do know is that it's looking very likely that Kirk Cousins will be our quarterback next year when looking at this. Now, we're going to have to wait to see when things go on. We're going to have to wait to see this offseason, what trade rumors spike up and what happens. But as of right now, he does like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins likes him, and this is a perfect head coach to quarterback relationship that is already established. So it's already better than the Mike Zimmer Kirk Cousins relationship. I mean, Kevin O'Connell he knocked it out the ballpark. He's just an absolute beast. I love the guy, and I love to call him my head coach. I'm super happy to call him my head coach, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, yeah, he hasn't done anything yet. I understand that, but right now it's looking like the right hire. Same with Kwesi. I love this new system the Vikings are running here because the last one had to go. I wasn't a Rick Spielman hater. What I was a hater of continuing to see the same thing over and over, the Vikings to make the same mistakes over and over. And I love that they're taking a whole different approach on the head coach hiring, bringing in a young offensive mind and bringing in a GM who thinks differently, who's more business minded. But that all in all, just an excellent press conference. Another thing I got to mention here. He was asked about the defense. Now, it's an Ed Donatel defense. Our Vikings defense is not led by Kevin O'Connell, obviously, because he's an offensive-minded head coach. So it's an Ed Donatel-led defense. But what Kevin O'Connell did say here was he was asked if they were going to run a 3-4 or a 4-3 defense. And Kevin O'Connell said that it's looking like a 3-4 defense, but more like a 3-3 and a nickelback defense. That should be our starting defense, is kind of what he hinted at here. What that means is we'd run 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 3 corners, and then 2 safeties. So that's how our defense. He mentioned that's how it's going to look. That's how it's likely going to look. How? I mean, where are we going to get a nickelback from? We don't have any nickelbacks on our roster right now. We don't have any corners. Kevin O'Connell knows this. He was talking about our defense already. He was talking about Harrison Smith being an excellent safety. He was talking about Eric Hendricks, obviously, at middle linebacker for us. And then our defensive front. He was talking about our defenses being very good. You notice how he didn't mention any corners? Yeah, because we have no good corners. We can't run a 3-3 and nickelback until we have the right roster. So it's going to be interesting when it comes to free agency, how he's going to handle this. Because if there's one thing I know, I don't want to see Mackenzie Alexander play nickel again for us. That did not work this last year. It didn't work at all. I'm all in for a 3-4 defense. I'm all in for that. 3-4 defenses are very successful around the NFL. I mean, just look at the Rams who just won a Super Bowl. How about the Buccaneers who won a Super Bowl before that? 3-4 defenses are the future. And I would like to see the Vikings run that, as we haven't seen that in some time. Other than third downs, we haven't seen a 3-4 starting defense for the Vikings in quite some time now. So if the Vikings do want to run a 3-3 and then add a nickelback, I'm fine with that. We just got to be able to get players who can play those positions first. Because if there's one thing I know from this Vikings defense, we suck when it comes to drafting corners. We suck when it comes to developing corners. So we have to figure out how we can fill these roles in free agency and the draft. Because as of right now, it's not looking like we can run a 3-3, technically is what it would be called, a 3-3, and then 3 corners on top of that. It's not looking likely when it comes to our defense. But leave that to Ed Donatel. Please leave that to Ed Donatel. He's a defensive mastermind. I would leave Kevin O'Connell in charge of the offense and being the head and face of this franchise. I'd leave that to Kevin O'Connell because he's looking like a promising hiring. Let me know what all of you guys think. How you think the press conference went. I know we didn't learn a lot, but still felt like he knocked it out the ballpark. Felt like a very impressive press conference. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought he just proved that he was the better hire than Jim Harbaugh looks like the better hire. I mean, obviously with time you'll see, but he looks like the better hire than Jim Harbaugh right now. In my opinion, he does. But yeah, let me know what y'all think, what you guys think you learned, what you guys think will be different for this team under a Kevin O'Connell-led offense, and how you think the Vikings should look, or how you think the Vikings will look going forward. Who will be on our roster, who will go, who will stay. Let me know what y'all think.